All right, welcome to What in the State of Washington. Thank you so much for coming back. My name is Onya Robertson, and today we're going to keep on talking about voting and elections here in Pierce County and specifically Tacoma, but we're also going to talk about Pierce County as well. I am honored to have a few members of our Tacoma community here. We're going to talk a bit more about why they're here today, but first I want to allow them to introduce themselves. So you guys could say hello and say your name, and we can just say your name for right now. How's that?
I can go first. Hi, my name... Well, we'll turn to that one.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Malcolm. I use he, him pronouns. I am a community health worker out of Tacoma, Washington.
Hola, mi nombre es Karina Gallardo y estoy aquí representing my community, the Spanish speakers in Tacoma.
And my name is Svetlana. I am a community advocate for the Russian-Ukrainian speaking community in Pierce County.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so the reason why these amazing individuals are here today is because they were so gracious to support this podcast by doing some outreach in their respective communities and asking kind of a simple question and then seeing where their conversation went. And so the question was, do you know what the primary election is? And so there was a whole lot of information that came out of that one question. So this episode and the rest of the episodes in this season are going to talk specifically about what the primary election is, why it's important to every single voter, and those who can be voters, and we'll get to that eventually, and how to prepare adequately. What are some things you can do to make sure that your voice is heard, that your community's voice is heard, that your family's voice is heard, and that you are doing what you can to impact positive change with regard to voting and elections here in Pierce County. So the hope is that this is a conversation of sorts. We have talked a lot about these things, but we want to have more of a conversation here together so that community who watches it can benefit from the questions and the answers. So I want to start by just saying thank you, Karina. Thank you, Svetlana. Thank you, Malcolm. I am so honored and so appreciative and so grateful for what you all have poured in representing your communities and allowing me to continue forth with this project. It's a labor of love for me, and I am on the third iteration or season of this, or third time around, and it's some of my life's work. So I'm just going to keep doing it until I can't do this no more. And so I'm so grateful. So one of the things that came out of all of this was a realization that, you know, people can't participate in systems that they don't understand, right? And so that's really the larger piece of this for me, is how do we make sure that our folks from various communities can understand these systems, because they can't participate if they don't understand them, right? And they're so impactful to their daily life. And so that's what we're doing here today. And I'm so grateful for you guys being here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so over the last, several months, I think at this point, myself and Voice Tacoma Radio Universal, shout out to Voice Tacoma Radio Universal, we partnered with individuals who happen to be community ambassadors with the City of Tacoma Community Ambassador Program. They were a part of this project as individuals, so not necessarily representing the City of Tacoma, but they are pillars in their communities. They are out in the streets doing things positive for their people. They're doing it in their languages. They're doing it with respect to their cultures. And so they went out and they were listening to their community members and what they were saying about voting, elections, civic participation, and specifically talking about the August 4th primary election. And one thing became really clear. People care, right? People care. They do care. It's not that people don't care, but a lot of people have questions. A lot of people have concerns. A lot of people have information, and a lot of people don't have a lot of information. And so today's episode is built around one common question. And this episode is titled, Wait, there's an election in August. So in Washington State, we have 2 major election cycles, right? The primary election happens in August. The general election happens in November. And so we can think of the primary election as the first round, right? And so if it's where voters help decide which candidates move forward to the November ballot. So even though November gets most of the attention, August is where many important decisions begin. And in some local races, August can be incredibly important because it determines who remains in the race moving forward.
Wow.
Right? And so I think it's also important to note that when most people hear election, and I think, Karina, you were talking about this earlier, what do they think of?
I don't know.
So when we're gonna do this again.
That's what they think.
They don't.
Like,
okay,
I don't know.
Okay, right. And some folks think of the president, right? They're like, oh, okay, maybe Congress, right? Maybe Congress. But local government affects our daily lives every single day, and so local elections, like the upcoming primary election, this helps determine decisions about schools, transportation, housing, public safety, parks, libraries, community services. And these are things that we interact with all the time. And that's why local elections absolutely matter. I think I wanted to, there was a number of questions that came up. I know Svetlana, Malcolm, Karina, like your communities asked a number of questions. And maybe we can start there with some of the concerns, some of the questions, and then we can move into some of the resources that I brought that are publicly accessible, and we can use those to kind of guide this conversation. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. So maybe we can start with you all talking about some of the outreach you did and what some of the things were that folks asked or said about the primary election when you inquired. Whomever wants to start.
I can go first. So for me, a lot of my community engagement was done for unhoused populations, BIPOC, but particular to the Black community and youth. A lot of folks just didn't know, either didn't know or didn't care. A lot of my clients that I work with who are unhoused, they don't have an address to refer mail to get things like pamphlets or extra information. They don't have transportation to get to ballots at a particular time or place, and they don't really have the desire to vote because they're trying to worry about where the next meal is going to come from, how they're going to get out of, heat environments or cold storms and things like that.
Thank you, Malcolm. Yeah. Do one of you guys want to talk about what your communities asked about or talked about?
Well, I think a lot of people like me didn't understand why it was a primary and why the November one. Like they all talk about the November one, but actually, I want to say thank you because I feel like I'm going to school with you to learn the election process. Yeah. I think everybody was surprised that I was trying to explain them, and I actually just passed the info the way I got it from you because I'm learning too.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it was a little. I asked one question. I said, "What do you do when you receive the pamphlet?" I put it on that drawer.
Sure.
I don't throw it away, but that's what they said.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I would like to join Karina and thank you, Onya, for providing this information because I've been a voter for 30 years and I did not know about primary election. And there's community that I work with of people from former Soviet Union, and a lot of them are citizens, but the information they're getting in English, and if English is your second language, it's not necessarily that you can understand the different terminology. And people just put in the drawers, and like you said, when we talk about election, people think the president, the November election. And I have a daughter who was born here. She's 22, and she did not know about this primary. Even she graduated from college, and then I asked her to ask her friends from the Slavic community. They did not know about this. Even they were U.S. born citizens. So thank you so much for providing this information and educating culture ambassadors so we can share this information with others.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. And a lot of folks don't know about the primary election. During my research what we found is that about 30% of registered voters vote for the primary election, and sometimes it's roughly about 70% or more or less, depending on the year, the election that year, who vote in the general November election. So there's a far smaller number of people that are deciding who is making it to the November election, and that's really important. So when folks are upset, frustrated, or what have you, when November comes and they're like, who are these two people? I don't even know who these people are. Well, those two people were decided in August at the election that most people didn't vote in.
And they make it to November.
That's right. And so that's how they got to November. Okay, so one of the things that I think is helpful, I think it's really important to utilize publicly available documents that anyone can look up, that anyone can grab, to talk about the primary election. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about is this really cool document from piercecountywa.gov, and I'm like, can the video see it? Oops. And so this is available online. I got this online. I went to piercecountywa.gov/elections, and it is the primary election at a glance. That's what this document is. And so we're going to be speaking from this document today. This is where we're going to start. And so first off, it tells you when the ballots will be mailed to our home. So they're going to be mailed out July 17th. Once they go into the mail, we'll get them, depending on who we are, a few days later or what have you. July 27th is the last day to receive online or paper registration. So if you haven't registered yet, you can go to votewa.gov, that's votewa.gov, and you can register. I also wanted to say for Tacoma, there is a voting center. There's also one in Parkland Spanaway. There's Puyallup South Hill. But I'm just going to say out loud, the voting center, if you need support in person, if you need your ballot or support in a different language, the best folks to contact is this voting center so that you can find the support that you need for yourself. And that's at the Pierce County Election Center. The address is 2501 South 35th Street, Suite C in Tacoma. And their regular business hours are Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. Leading up to the August primary, they're going to have some extended hours because they know folks are going to need additional help trying to get their ballots in. And so even on this election at a glance, I just want to make a note of this. It says that there's 600,000 registered voters in Pierce County, and that there's about a 35% projected turnout rate. So they project that there's going to be about 35% of those registered voters that are actually going to vote in the primary.
No.
That's right.
It will be different.
That's right. And so that's the point, is we got to get these numbers up. Yeah. We deserve to be able to have some input in who is leading our cities, districts, counties, who our judges are, who our city council folks, who the mayor is.
And also these propositions and initiatives.
These propositions and initiatives. So I wanted to just start with some of the general information about that. On the back of this paper, let's see, it also says what's on the ballot. It says specifically what's on the ballot. It gives kind of some high level, general, this is the type of stuff on the ballot. So there's U.S. representatives for our county or districts, state senators and representatives. There's some precinct committee officers. We'll talk about that. There's some Pierce County offices in a few different council districts. There's a couple of judicial offices that are open right now, and there's some special elections that are going to take place that are specific to certain cities and towns, but we're still going to talk about them in case that is relevant to anyone watching this. Whoever watches this is, I hope this is extremely helpful.
I have a question. When
Yes,
you
ma'am.
went to the website, is that information in Spanish?
I'm pretty sure you can get it in whatever languages are needed on the website. I think there's a button that you can change things to a different language, and there's an area where you can download it in your language. But there's some challenges with that, right? Because if you're looking for your language and you don't speak English, how do you find your language on a website that is in English, right? And so that's really challenging, and that's why I recommend for folks who have some language needs to contact the Vote Center. And what's interesting is on this document, they don't give the phone number. Okay. But they do give the address.
And I'm sure you could probably also look up
the office and see if there's a number, but they didn't put the phone number. Well, they did put, for Pierce County elections, they put 253-798.
Contact us if you have a question.
So, and I think that's important. I think that's something that maybe we can actually push on too and make that better next year. That might be something our communities can stress.
Yeah. And I think now we can have the homework, right? Some of us to do it in Spanish and just pass that information in Spanish until it's there.
Yeah, until it's there the way it's supposed to be. And I really think that's what this is. This is doing it until we get it right? And this is my third time doing this, and it's evolved, it's changed, it's a number of different things that have happened because I just want to get it right. I just want more people to vote. I just want more folks to understand that they're entitled to be able to do this. They get to do this.
You know, that with the climate that we've been having, especially in our communities, I think it's the most powerful protest that we're gonna have. Is our young people voting for the first time, and I think they're not expecting that from us. And I think that's going to be powerful.
Absolutely. I think that we have a right to vote. It's our right. Yeah. We get to do it. And there's all sorts of ways to do it. And there's no perfect way to vote. And you get to vote according to your own values. And our votes are not secret necessary, but they are to you. Unless you tell someone who you vote for, they won't know. Yeah. Wives and husbands vote differently. Yeah. Brothers and sisters vote differently. Yeah. Neighbors vote differently. Okay. And that is okay. And we don't even have to talk about it. You get to vote how you want to vote.
Just vote.
Just vote.
Learn how to vote.
Just learn how to vote. And so that's really what we're doing here today, is trying to reduce the fear, reduce the concern, reduce the I think from a lot of the feedback I got from you all, there's a little bit of embarrassment when folks don't know. There's a little bit of shame, right? There's a little bit of
stigma.
There's some stigma. Yeah. They don't want everybody to know they don't vote, because then folks are going to look at them crazy, but they don't know that person might not vote either, right? And so it's like we're all in it together.
And I think if community ambassadors or leaders like us, if just like telling people whose English is not the first language, there is an option. Yeah. And I think people who are naturalized citizens, they speak enough English to find that button to choose their language, but they don't know that it exists.
Sure.
And the stigma and embarrassment is to go there and just like look at the things, and you understand English, but you don't completely understand. So just educate people that there is an option. Yeah. And they would feel more comfortable to go and get information in their language.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. And my hope for this is that it's a conversation between us that can then be shared when you guys leave here, right? You all had a lot of questions from yourselves, from your communities, and so this is the answers to those questions. And the hope is that you walk away going, I done got it together. So I started with this document because if you go to the website, it's there, and it tells you everything you need to know. It says 8 p.m. is the deadline on August 4th to turn in your ballot. They're going to shut it off. They're not taking no more ballots after that. There's 57 drop box locations. And if you go to the website, you can actually find the one closest to you, right? Me and my son walked down our hill on 19th, a couple of blocks to the UWT, And right at the bottom of that hill on Pacific is a drop box right there. And so we walk our dog down there and we drop it and we look at the hill and we go, Lord, why did we walk? So now we got to walk back up this hill.
And I also enjoy what Carlina said about the youth and just folks who just either never voted the last election cycle or haven't voted at all, because getting folks educated on what's important to them at the city level will most likely encourage them to vote at the state and national level as well, especially because a lot of people have been talking more about, my park isn't getting restored. Where are the EMS services? How come we're not having money invested into this, and this, where, it's going into this. So this is our chance to be able to answer some of those questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like last time we were talking about the special election that was in Washington, right? And then I was like, why I received this in the mail way before the election day. So then we learned that it was a special election in Tacoma, in Tacoma. Pierce County, Tacoma. Because it was for the parks. I don't remember if it's...
It was for Parks Tacoma.
I think it was Parks Tacoma.
It was only Parks Tacoma. So it was a special election. And we learned that those things happen still. Like when they're proposing something and they wanted to receive answers if we should do this or not, they will go to election, vote. Let's vote. Let's say who wants to do this or not.
Let's see what the people want.
Yes.
That's right. Absolutely. And I think it's important to note, we've already talked about this. We've already talked about local elections are decided by a very small number of votes. Sometimes the difference is just a dozen votes. It's just if that. Yeah. Sometimes it's hundreds. Sometimes it's, 50. Sometimes it's just a couple dozen votes that make the difference between something passing and something not passing. I think that's really important for people to know.
Probably if a candidate has a big family and they convince the family to go and vote, that's what it makes them do.
It's possible. And so, I think it's also important to note that elected officials make decisions for us whether we vote or not. They get to make those decisions. And so it's really important for us to try to elect folks that have our values in mind, that we are in alignment with some of the ways that we think or that we're hopeful for our children. Some folks are about jobs or transportation, and if those things are important to us, then we want to know that, right? We want to be aware. We want to know who we're voting for, why we're voting for them, and be able to stand by those votes if that's what we're doing, right? So I think one thing I wanted to reiterate, there is a primary election on August 4th. And I'm going to keep saying that, and I know it is driving people insane, but...
We need to continue saying that.
Yes, there is a primary election on August 4th. Ballots need to be in by 8 p.m. on August 4th. If folks are not registered, they can register online up until, up until July 27th. They can register online up until July 27th. They can also go to the voting center in Tacoma. That's Pierce County Election Center at 2501 South 35th Street, Suite C in Tacoma. The regular hours are 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
So when people vote, what do you think they prefer to vote more for family or for community? How do you think it should go ranking wise? Because a lot, Tacoma is very different, very diverse. You got
very diverse.
One working class family over here versus your single, individual just got out of high school. So how do you make sure those values converge?
Well, I don't know if we can make sure those values converge, right? I think people should feel free to vote the way they want to vote.
Yeah.
And so I remember last voting season, myself and my youngest son, who you all have met, he was looking at me the same way he's looking at me all the time, like, what do you want? But I made him sit with me while I filled out my ballot. And sometimes sometimes candidates are very similar. And sometimes you're like, well, how do I pick one when they're almost the same? And so in those moments, you pick the person you want to pick. And you choose them based off of your values, off of, do you think that they would carry out that position in a way that you can be proud of, in a way that you approve of, in a way that you are like, I can stand behind what they wrote here, right? I can stand behind what they said. I can stand behind what they did. I think it's important to note, and we're going to talk about this in some full detail, but we have the Pierce County official local voters pamphlet for the primary election. It's available online. They will be sent out probably really soon, but you can get them online. And I think it's important to note that when candidates submit information, whatever they submitted that. So whatever is in there, that's what they wanted you to know about them. That's what they chose to put in there. That's what they chose to tell you. And so I think it's important to make sure that folks understand that. And so to your question, Malcolm, I just pulled up I'm going to pull up mine. Let's see, the 27th ledge. I don't know. We're in 27th legislative district.
How can you find your legislative district?
Yeah, it's a great question. What is it?
The vote also has where your legislative district is as well.
Yeah, there's maps where you can kind of find where you're at.
Yeah, so all the Dropbox sites, and then your legislative district. So North Tacoma versus South Tacoma versus Hilltop. It's all in there.
It's all in there.
Yes.
And it's separated out. So as you get to different legislative districts and areas or regions of Tacoma, it'll call out where those are on the map. So this is just a piece of that map, right? And as we get to other parts, it'll show other pieces of that map that are relevant.
And I see that it has a QR code that you can scan, and it gives you more details.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's right. And so I'm going to stay on par and do 27th legislative district just real quick as a reference, because that's where we're sitting right here at Voice Tacoma Radio Universal. We're in legislative district 27. And the folks who are running, their information is here, and it talks about their elected experience, other professional experience, education, community service, and then they gave a statement. And again, this is information that they or their team submits, and it's what they want the voters to know about them. You can take it further. You can, scan the QR code. You can Google them. You can go to their websites. Many of them have websites, Facebook pages, Instagram, what have you, and see what it is that they're telling folks, how they're moving in the world, what type of stuff they've been up to. And so you can do further research. But if you choose to just use the voter pamphlet, I think it's really important to know that the information in here, they submitted themselves. This is what they want you to know. And so we'll continue to talk. One of the future episodes, we're literally going to go person by person, or race by race, as in what position are they running for. And we're going to talk about what it says their values are. And then you can pick from there. We don't tell people who to vote for.
Where's the picture?
That's a good question. And so she's talking about, in 27th legislative district, the person running, one of the folks running for state representative position number 1 against the current representative, Lori Jenkins, they didn't submit a picture. And that means they chose not to submit a picture. It means that they didn't get it in on time, or they missed the deadline, or whatever. So when this goes out, and they don't wait for nobody. It goes out when it goes out. There's a deadline that you must...
Even that can make a difference.
Yeah. It could make you go, well, they missed a deadline, right? I want folks missing deadlines.
I have those ideas. It's like, well, you don't care for the picture.
And maybe some folks are like, I love a deadline misser. I'm just saying, right? They could go, we want a rebel who's not going to stick to whatever, right? Or who, I don't know. I just want to make sure I don't seem biased, because I'm not. Vote for who you want to vote for. We just so happen to pick the 27th legislative district, one of those elections that is happening, and because that's where we're seated physically, and just so happened the other person didn't have no picture. So I don't want them or their supporters to feel any type of way, because some people might love that they ain't got no picture. There might be something to it.
It can be different reasons.
That's right.
Like
something could have happened.
Sometimes when I feel like some forms, they ask me, your like racial stuff,
Sure.
right? And I'm like, why?
I'm just trying to fill out my little form.
Why is that so important here
Sure.
in this little thing?
Sure.
Like, I'm gonna be treated different if I say that I'm Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. But the last names and everything and the names, I can't tell, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be different reasons why there's no picture. And you were telling something like you can't read, you can't go by whatever they said, and at the end you're gonna feel like, okay, I'm gonna go by this person.
Sure.
But it helps when I have a picture.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then like y'all were saying, this is just one of many, viable avenues. Like if you really want to see what they look like, most likely they'll have a team page, they'll have some kind of social media profile.
Absolutely.
Or like I've been seeing, which has been really nice, they've been having more community forums where they try to get all the representatives, like at the city level, the council level, or the legislative level, and they'll have like forums where they'll bring community folks so you can see what they look like. Because some people might not be tech savvy like that. Some people might be more of a talker, IRL, dealing with the policies and not want to deal with all of this. So it just depends.
It really does depend.
That's a good point.
And I think, I think that's why I was just like, some people may be with it, or some folks may not appreciate that they didn't get a picture, and some folks may very much appreciate that there's no picture, right? Yeah. And the same with sometimes, one candidate will have a bunch of information and the other candidate will have nothing. And so, that's a decision we all make when we're voting and filling out our cute little ballot. Yeah. We get to decide how we do that. And so, and I think it's important to also say that there's organizations and entities that do some of this work as well. And some of them create endorsement lists that, there's groups of organizations, whether they're nonprofits or 501c4s, that support and endorse. Some folks that people may trust and be close to and volunteer for and receive services from and participate with, that may actually have endorsement lists where you can go, I trust this organization. I believe in the work that they do. I believe in the candidates that they believe in. And those are some ways that folks may go, I have a team essentially of folks who make some of those voting decisions and helps make their voting experience easier and better for them. And so we're going to talk about some of those in a future episode as well and call them out directly while being fair to all different types of voters. So I think that's pretty much where I want to end this episode at. For the subject of just the general idea of there being a primary election, it is August 4th, 2026. No matter whether you vote or not, there is a primary election on August 4th.
And as of, what's today? And as of June 24th, it's still confirmed that we're going to be getting mail-in ballots.
Yeah. That's right.
It could be subject to change based off what's going on with the Supreme Court and stuff like that. So as far as we know, as of today, you'll get your mail-in ballot.
Right. And if you are not registered to vote, or if you want to check to see if you're registered to vote, then you can go to votewa.gov. That's votewa, votewa.gov, and you can check to see if you're registered. And if you're not, go ahead on and register. All right.
Or if you need to change your status, also make sure to do that as well. Because if you have an address that doesn't match your driver's license and things like that, they won't validate that.
That's very important. If people don't know that, when I was asking, like, that you need to keep that updated as well.
And there are locations that can assist you with that, like satellite sites to voting centers. Like, so for example, if you are unhoused, DSHS can assist you. If you're on Medicaid or on EBT, they're able to assist you based off of using their address. Libraries are also a really big hub, as well as school districts. So.
Thank you. Absolutely. In our next episode, we're going to tackle another major question we heard from our community. What am I actually voting for anyway? Because before we can participate, we need to understand what all of those names and offices on the ballot actually do. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our community ambassadors. I'm so appreciative of all of you. And remember, people cannot participate in systems they do not understand. Have a great day.